Welcome to a psychiatrist's take on the Bible. This podcast does not provide psychiatric, medical, or professional advice, opinion, treatment, or counseling. It contains general information for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for psychiatric, medical, or professional care. It does offer a unique "so what" take on the Bible of a board-certified psychiatrist who is also an ordained minister.
I suppose it's a bit of an occupational hazard to be trained in watching people as they come and go. I observe people in psychiatric settings, of course, but also in supermarkets and as they come and go through their lives. And one of the things I notice is a lot of people make statements by their body, the way they walk, the way they hold their hands, in their face. They allow their hands to hang down, their back is stooped, their face drags. They look so miserable. It's as if their bodies are screaming, "Poor me." But I don't think this pleases the Lord. I also think that it feeds the misery. The more you let your body sag toward the ground, the more you say to the habit part of your brain, "Keep this up. This really is good. We're going to go around walking and looking miserable." I'm not quite sure what we think we'll get out of it. I suppose we think maybe other people say, "Boy, you look miserable." And then they'll help us out, listen to us, cut us some slack. Maybe we're telling ourselves, "See how miserable I am. So I should cut myself some slack. I shouldn't have to do this." Maybe we think we'll get extra credit. If you recall, I've often covered the three basic elements of iniquity. Iniquity, if you remember, is deciding for yourself what's right and wrong, without checking with the Lord first. That's like a military soldier who decides to go off and capture the enemy territory without checking with his boss if that's what he wants done. It's disobedience. And when we decide what is right or wrong and do it in our own strength, we then try to get extra credit by moaning and groaning. Look with me at Hebrews chapter 12. "Wherefore, seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight, and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. Ye have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. And ye have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh to you as unto children. My son, despise not thou the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh, which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits, and live? For they, verily, for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Now therefore no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them that are exercised therefore. Wherefore, lift up the hands which hang down, and the feeble knees, and make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it rather be healed. Follow peace with all men, and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and therefore many be defiled. I've read that 80% of speech is done with our body parts and not with our mouth. We may come home and be extra quiet, and we expect our loved ones to say, "Are you okay? You seem quiet." And if we walk around with our hands hanging down, our back bent, our knees dragging, sighing, and talking in a mumble and soft, what are we saying? We're saying, "See?" With our posture, we say, "See, I'm a Christian, and what a miserable thing that is. But I guess I have to be miserable for Christ, because otherwise I don't get to go to heaven. But it sure is hard." Of course, none of us would ever say that. But so often, people come to church, and the scriptures say, how will they know that we are Christians? By our love for one another. And yet we don't smile at each other. We look miserable. And they say, boy, I'd have to pay tithe. I couldn't go fishing Sunday morning, and then I'd have to look like that. So what's the antidote? Look back at the passage with me. It's all right there. As you know, all Scripture is given not only to reprove you, and I hope that this passage has reproved you as it has me, but to correct that which it has reproved and equip you for life. So first, let's actively picture all the Christians that have lived and died and gone on before as if they're in a big cloud around us, just cheering us on. They went through struggles maybe far worse than our own, and now they have found rest, and so will we. So let us run with patience. And so often the reason why our struggles weigh us down is because of sin. Then weight of worry. And if you are suffering because of sin, well, that's only appropriate. You should suffer. It says that God spanks his children. Well, accept that. Learn and allow it to do its work. For if you're getting spanked because you deserve it, then you're going to get benefit, holiness. But a lot of times, the sin is not, the cause of the suffering. It's the result of the suffering. We go through suffering as we follow Christ, and then we moan and groan, and that appears to be sin because we're told not to do it. And so we suffer, and it weighs heavy on us, not because we've done anything wrong in the first place, but we choose to take this suffering and make it twice as bad as it is. And so keep your eye on the result. What was Jesus keeping his eye on when he went through suffering? The joy that was set before him. What was that? Relationship with you. That was the only reward. The only thing he got that he didn't have before he came down here was you. Oh, brothers and sisters, why don't you keep your joy, your focus on the same joy? Relationship with him. For he offers us this awesome gift that for all eternity we will be the bride of Christ. If we have to go through some suffering, remember this, that we are given the privilege of being fellow sufferers. When I was in the military, I was told, never ask your men to do something that you haven't been willing to do, and go through it with them. And Jesus suffered, and he allows us to be fellow sufferers. Imagine you were standing beside the way of the cross, and Jesus was coming by, and all of a sudden the soldier said, "Hey, you look strong. Carry his cross for him." Wouldn't that be a privilege? I mean, here he's suffering for you, and you could take a little of that on yourself and walk with him and carry that cross, but it's heavy and it might grind into your shoulder. Well, we are asked to carry our cross daily. It's not ours and he's got his. It's really everything he asks you to do. He walks with you. So I wish this for all of us, that in the inevitable suffering that is built into this sin-filled world, suffering of relationships with our family, suffering with the effort of work, suffering in general, may we keep our backs erect, lift up our feet, look others in the eye, put on clean clothes, smile, while we appreciate what we do have, appreciate what we can do and do it with all our might and energy, and appreciate who is in our lives, that we might say with our bodies, see what a great God we have. Even when we suffer, we can walk erect. God bless.